Having a Q&A session on your site gives your visitors the unique opportunity to set the tone of the content that you're producing, which they appreciate. Imagine that there's a burning question inside each of your readers' minds, and now that you know what it is, you can take the time to answer it. Q&As are another great type of post for when you're short on ideas of your own. What would your audience like to hear? Go and create that. The mechanics of a Q&A are pretty simple. Your audience asks you questions and you answer them. But let's look at a few of the different ways that you can structure a Q&A. It could be done live. These ones will keep you on your toes, and they're fun for that reason. Plus, since you're on the spot and obviously don't have the time to look up answers, you can really impress your audience with your ability to answer their questions right off the bat. Of course, it's a good idea to be pretty knowledgeable and experienced within your niche before you stick yourself in the spotlight like that. You'll certainly get to the point where you can do this if you're not already there just by following your daily curation workflow, because that'll give you over time enough knowledge to do one of these. Now here are a couple of tools for a live Q&A session if you want to do a live one. You could use GoToWebinar. You could use Instant Teleseminar, which will do it just over the phone where people can call in or they can listen online and submit questions online. And you could also even do it on Ustream where people can watch you and submit questions maybe in the chat. You can also do your Q&As individually. By that I mean that you're not holding one live massive Q&A session or post, but instead you're accepting questions from folks and then answering them one by one at your own pace. That's the approach that Lynn Terry took here in this blog post, and it was centered around a question that she had received from one of her readers. Shoemoney does it another way, and this works too, although it doesn't have the same SEO value as a whole post centered around the topic like Lynn Terry's approach does. So what he does is he lets his audience know that a Q&A is coming up, and then they submit a bunch of questions in the comments. He puts those together in one massive post and answers each and every one of them. It's nice to get it all out there in one session, but like I said, it doesn't have the SEO value that Lynn's approach does. But on the other hand, you're able to answer a whole bunch more people because you're doing so many at once than if you devoted an entire post to each person. And that might be more valuable to you and your audience if you're able to touch on what a bunch of people have to say as opposed to just one at a time. But where and how do you get the questions that you're going to answer? Well, like Shoemoney, you can just ask your audience what they'd like to know more about. Just tell them that you'd love to answer some questions from them and ask them to put their questions in the comments or to email you. You can also look back at previous comments on your site. You're likely to find some people who've asked you something over time or for clarification about something that you previously wrote. So go ahead and answer those folks. Email, Facebook, and Twitter are also all places where people could have asked you a question over time or where you could reach out now and ask them to ask you questions. Same thing with forums, another place where people may already be asking you questions if you're participatory in them, or where you could reach out and say, hey, does anybody have anything they'd like me to answer in this niche? Now I know that when you're new to a niche, people might not really be breaking down your doors to ask you stuff since they don't actually know you that well yet. So don't hesitate to check out what's going on at Yahoo Answers and see what people there are asking, and then just answer the questions on your site. You form it as a question to yourself. I mean, not dear me, I'd like to know this, signed me, but just put question and then put it in bold or something just to make it easier to read, and then put your answer in normal text below with, titled as answer. Form it as a question to yourself, answer it, and that kind of gets the ball rolling there. You can do the same thing with Quora, however you say that. Once you prime the pump like that, folks will often step forward and ask their own questions. They want to know that it's okay. And when they see that, oh, hey, this person's answering questions from people, maybe he can give me a hand too. So you'll open that door when you prime the pump this way. Oftentimes these people ask the questions that they want to know in the comment section of your previously posted Q&A session because they've got Q&A on the brain, so they submit it right then. Then once you've primed that pump and people are submitting questions like that, you can go ahead and get to the real business of answering real people's questions.